Hello, Governor. The name's Max. I'm getting tip-top ready for the big funny face race. You know what I mean? Yeah, me neither. Sorry about that. The big race is coming up. And by race, I mean the annual Cooper Hill Cheese Rolling in Gloucester, England. It may not sound like it, dude, but it's totally an extreme sport. Check this out. So there's this really steep hill in England where they have this event every year. They take a big roll of cheese, like this, and they roll it down the hill. The contestant race after the cheese, though they usually end up rolling after the cheese. Whoa! The person who gets to the cheese first win the grand prize of, you guessed it, cheese. You know what I love about this event? You don't have to be the greatest athlete in the world to compete. You could be tall, short, weak, strong, whatever, yo. If you can go down a hill really fast, you can go home with the cheese. Real life is like that too. You don't have to be the strongest and fastest to make it in life. All you really need is a little confidence. Confidence is living like you believe what God says is true. And today, we'll find out what God said about a little guy named Gideon who made a big impact. I like to see Gideon do the cheese roll. I bet he'd be pretty good. Sorry, that was cheesy. Cheese humor. I'm gonna go over here.
The Bible isn't just a book of random stories. It's 66 different books that come together to tell one story. An incredible one about God's love for us. And now, for an amazing story inspired by the book of Judges, chapters 6 to 8.
Even though God had given his people a new home in the Promised Land, the Israelites still turned away from him. So God allowed their enemies to attack and defeat them. Each year, the Midianites and Amalekites destroyed the Israelites' crops and livestock. At last, the Israelites cried out to God.
Help! Help!
God saw how powerless his people were, so he sent an angel of the Lord, not to the strongest, but to the least significant family, the very least important person in the whole tribe, a man named Gideon.
Hi?
You know, the sort of guy other people look right past.
Cellophane, Mr. Cellophane, should have been my name, Mr. Cellophane.
When the angel first appeared, Gideon was hiding out threshing wheat. He was so worried that enemies would steal his grain, he was working where nobody else could see him. The blazing light nearly blinded him.
What?
Mighty warrior, the Lord is with you.
If God is with us, why have all these awful things happened?
You are strong. Go save Israel. I am sending you.
Who, me? You know me, Gideon, least important guy in the family at the bottom of the pecking order?
I will be with you.
Gideon still couldn't believe that God would actually choose him, so he asked for a sign. God burned up the meat and bread that Gideon had prepared.
Oh, wow. Well done. Extra crispy, in fact.
Soon, enemy armies crossed the Jordan River to attack Israel. The Spirit of God came on Gideon, giving him courage, and he called to the men of Israel to come join him. And even though Gideon considered himself unimportant, 32,000 men rallied around him at Mount Gilead.
Yikes. They think I'm gonna lead them in battle? Are you sure about this, God?
God was patient with Gideon and gave 2 more signs to show that he was going to use Gideon just as he'd promised.
Well, okay, God.
I will hand the Midianites over to you.
Great. Got it. Let's do this.
But you have too many men.
Too many men?
Too many men.
Have you seen the enemy camp? They're like a swarm of locusts.
The Israelites might brag, my own strength has saved me. So tell the army, those who tremble with fear can turn back.
Does that include me?
With a deep sense of dread, Gideon gave God's message to the men of Israel. Many of them did leave.
Well, we've only got 10,000 soldiers to fight the enemy now.
There are still too many men.
Still too many men?
Still too many men. Take them down to the water, and I will tell you who should leave.
Gideon led all the men down to the water to drink. Here, God instructed Gideon to separate the men who got down and drank water like dogs from the men who cupped the water and drank with their hands. The ones who got down to drink should be sent home.
You stay. You go. Stay. Go, go, go. Go, 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 go. God, there are only 300 men left.
With their help, I will save you.
Well, you created math, so I gotta believe you can do the math.
That night, Gideon and his small band of warriors camped in the spring of Herod. In the valley below, the vast enemy army spread out, torches and campfires flickering for miles.
As many as the sand on the seashore.
Gideon tossed and turned on his map, unable to sleep. Once again, the voice of God startled him.
Get up and go down to the camp. Listen to what they are saying. Then you will not be afraid.
Gideon and his servant snuck down the hillside. At the edge of the enemy camp, they hung back in the shadows as they saw men huddled around the last embers of a glowing campfire.
No! No!
Wake up, you're dreaming.
I saw a giant loaf of bread race down the mountain. It flattened a tent.
That must be Gideon. God has given him the whole camp.
In the shadows, Gideon could barely keep from shouting.
God has given us the whole camp.
Gideon and his servant rushed back up the hill to the sleeping Israelite band.
Get up! Get up! God has given you the Midianites. Each of you take a trumpet and a torch in a jar.
A torch in a jar is about as good as a jar.
Watch me. Do what I do.
Gideon divided the men into 3 groups of 100. Fanning out, they crept down the mountain to the outskirts of the enemy camp.
Now!
Gideon and his men blasted their trumpets and smashed their jars so their torches blazed into the night.
A sword for the Lord and for Gideon!
The Israelites held their ground at the edge of camp, but their enemies panicked. Some ran away in fear, others began to fight with each other.
Send messengers through the hill country. Tell our friends we're following the enemy.
Gideon's band of men was joined by other Israelites as they all chased the Midianites back across the Jordan River. The enemy was completely destroyed that day, and Gideon led Israel through 40 years of peace, all because he had allowed God to use him in spite of his doubts.
Gideon was the least important member of the least important tribe. And for some reason, God chose Gideon to lead an army into battle. Think about what that story says about God. It says that he can use someone who might think they're unusable to do remarkable things. He says God can see potential in a person that they may not even see in themselves. Now, what does the story of Gideon say about you? Maybe you feel like a Gideon. Maybe you feel you're not important or that other people are more important than you. Maybe you wonder if God could ever use someone like you. Well, wonder no more, my friend. God can use you. He can use you no matter what. No matter how small you are, how old you are, how fast or slow you are, he made you and you are important to him. That's why the story of Gideon is so awesome. It reminds us that God can use any of us to do anything. Isn't that cool? Here's the one thing to give you confidence today. God can use you no matter what. Tall, short, weak, strong, whatever, yo. God can use you, and you've got a ripping good safety dance chance of winning the funny face phrase for it, if you please, Cheese. How do people in England understand each other? See you next time.